I am Phillip Lanos, and today we have Trinny Woodall, a founder and CEO of the disruptive beauty brand Trinny London. She's had a successful 20-year career in the media, established herself as a fashion advisor, initially as a columnist for the Daily Telegraph, and even later as a co-host for What Not to Wear and the Trinny and Susanna makeover shows. Filmed across 20 countries, Trinny has spent her career helping people find their most flattering styles, the best skincare, and perfectly matched foolproof makeup. And in 2017, equipped with her unique idea of portable stacked premium makeup, she founded the highly successful beauty brand Trinny London. Essentially, you've done more things than I have in my 31 years of life in probably the last year alone.
Can we? Okay, can I just say a lovely intro, Phil? I just want to preempt by saying that Phil and I had that pre-chat, and whatever we did, we can't turn off the buzzing of my laptop. So we're going to have buzzing. Whenever you hear a beep, it's my laptop. Whenever you hear fuzz noise, it's something else, it's just to differentiate. But yeah, so yes, I kind of pack a lot in, Phil. There's many years and I spent when I was much younger, like up to the age of sort of probably 29, they coin it imposter syndrome now, but there was some consistent things in my life that I knew gave me joy, but I didn't really know how to get there or what my career was. So I was a real late developer in some ways very early, in some ways very late. And so then as soon as I got on that train, which was not till 29, then it went off at a high speed rail. And it's kind of had some 10-year cycles, because you talk about it like it's a 20-year career. I am 56, so that's probably a little bit longer. So I think things do go in those cycles in life, but I'm right now in a really exciting cycle.
Yeah, I think you told me earlier as we were chatting and figuring things out that you have a team of 100. Now, I'm 31, right? So you said at 29 is when the imposter syndrome started to sort of leave your life. Like I do relate to that, and I think many people, especially in this modern day and age, with like all the Instagrams and whatever other social
Yeah.
networks are out there, constantly pitting us against each other in terms of comparison.
And also deviating away from being able to identify your gut feeling of what you're good at, because it gets
Yes.
crowded. That space when you kind of spend too long in other people's backyard, your vision and your sense of how you want to be that entrepreneur is blurred. And that's the killer.
Yes. Yeah, and you know what's funny is as I'm sitting here talking to you, I realize that your gift is probably seeing. Now, I don't want to impose, but your gift is probably seeing the uniqueness in people, and that's how you pull out the looks and the things that you've done over the years. So, at some point in this episode, I would like to get your take on maybe what someone can do to sort of draft up a potential web or workshop of like, what would I be? How can I set myself apart?
Yeah,
Those
because
kind of
it's always
things.
it's like, it's very easy to retrospectively, Phil, look back and think, what was that consistent thing that always brought me joy? So when I look back now, I know that, when I was much younger, I went to boarding school and I stayed a lot of the weekends at school with a few of the girls. So I had to kind of connect a bit, and I loved making girlfriends over. I loved that feeling. I lived in Germany at the time and in France. So I would bring back slightly unusual clothing that maybe wasn't in England then. And I just liked that. And it was a way I I found when I was a kid, I found it quite difficult to form friendships. And it was a way that I had a language I could speak that allowed me to make somebody think, oh, I'm happy to see Trinny, because maybe I thought, like a lot of that imposter syndrome moment, God, I hate that bloody label, but you feel there's that element, you don't feel you're good enough, and I've been through, I don't feel I'm good enough in terms of addiction and recovery. So I've been through that whole journey. But when I was much, much younger, before that sort of raw uncertainty manifests itself in kind of maybe partying too much, I did have that sort of the joy I felt doing that. And I was the youngest of six kids. My dad was a banker. There was a part of me that thought I should be in finance, not smart enough to go to college. I kind of had a dream that I would go to Harvard, weirdly, because I knew I could never go to UK university.
Really?
And then I pitched, this story. And you know how we kind of invent this sense of what we think we want to do, and it becomes folklore in our little journey of our life. And what it does on one hand is makes us feel better about ourselves, And on the other hand, it increases our sense of our imposterness within our own body. So I kind of had this thing, are you following me, Phil? This
Yeah.
sense that I like, I'll probably go to Harvard because I felt I couldn't even go to English university. So of course I didn't go to Harvard. I don't think I even did SATs. But I remember saying, I went to the campus and the kids seemed a bit immature. So that's why I decided maybe I shouldn't go. But, did that really happen? No. It's like that thing that we sort of want to just help us on our journey. So there I was anyway. I'm 18. Most of my friends, half my friends actually are going to university, and probably 2/3 are going to some kind of further education. And I'm like, So along those journeys, I became a little entrepreneurial. So my first little business when I was actually doing high school is I had sisters who had older brothers who were working on trading floors. This is like the 80s. And so I thought, they need their shirts pressed. So I started this gang of girls and they were all really quite cute. And we pressed shirts and we kind of sprayed starch on the shirts to press them quicker. So they were literally like cardboard when you put them on. But that was and we charged like $2 a shirt, which then was a lot of money. And it was like my little entrepreneurial moment. But like many things then I'd started, it would be exciting, be something I could go out for dinner. So I'm doing this, I had some, it goes back to that thing, something to talk about, because maybe me was not enough. So I had some little thing to talk about. And then, I had to finish school, so it stopped. And then Princess Diana was all the trend. This is how old I am. I keep saying that. And hair bows were this exciting thing. So I found these lovely ladies in a part of London called Brixton. I got this fabric from a market. They made it up. I found these brooches. I put them on top and we sold them. I even went with my mum down Fifth Avenue and tried to sell them in Bergdorf. Okay. But I sold them in a store in England called Harvey Nichols, like Harrods. So there was all these little things going on, but they would last a year. Then I had Sock It To You. This is still before I'm 21. Sock It To You was a sock company. And I got these socks from this middle, I think it was a Polish, and at that stage, probably behind the Iron Curtain sock company. Because I thought, we have this relationship with socks. Two go in the washing machine and one comes out, and what happens to them, especially single bachelor guys. So I thought of those trading floors again. I got some really cute girls. I got big baskets and notification. And they went, they sold bloody socks. And, for a while, this was great. And then, the socks, the elastic started going and the blue ran out in the washing machine and, it was, oh Lord. And then there was that thing of anyone who's, we all can go through a lot of businesses as entrepreneurs, but, you'd find in your garage that old business in one corner in a box and that old business in another corner in your box, that sort of history of your failures. In your mind, depending on how you look at them, you could look at them looking back as how I started to be an entrepreneur, which is how I look at them now. It was there early.
How you look at it now, but I'm sure that's not how you.
But at the time, it was that box I didn't want to open because it kind of reinforced my sense that, okay, I tried that, it didn't work. You got a dog. I've got notifications.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't.
Oh, let me see the dog quickly because I love a dog.
Want to see the dog? Okay, one sec.
Let me the dog.
Come here, Milo.
What's the dog called?
Milo.
Oh, I thought you said Lila, which is my daughter's name. Milo. Let's see.
Let's see, Milo. Come here. There he is.
Oh, is he a
He's
Weimar?
a little. He's a Jackson, right? So he's a
Dachshund and a Jack Russell.
Yeah, Jack Russell and a Dachshund.
I have a Parson Terrier.
Oh, you have a Parson Terrier. Okay. No.
Okay, we're getting back on track.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I love him. He's 8 months old. He's a baby.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you actually remind me a lot of myself. And when I say this, what I mean is like I'm in my own life have read so much self-help and would use that as a way to have something to talk about because maybe I myself wasn't good enough. So when you say the things that you've done that where you started business after business and did something to start just to have something to talk about, I can really resonate with that. And if you add to it the fact that I myself also moved around a lot as a kid, and so I had to learn how to make friends fast, I can see how that also has informed the decisions that you made as you were growing up. The difference is you are now managing a team of 100. Right. Plus, and you have multiple media opportunities that you've developed into full on brands and products and things that you are managing on a regular basis. So my question to you is, how do you manage your time? Do you have an assistant?
Well, it's like maybe things don't happen overnight, so at the very beginning of this, so really just, you kind of did the history of my life, but I went from all those mixed jobs to then kind of burning out, and then 2016, what do I want to do now? And I realized I love that, helping women. So by a lucky break, I got a column in a paper like the New York Times, and I did it for 7 years, and that gave me about 2 million people who tuned, who read it. So it was a platform. So I found a platform. Like today, one could find a social media following. I found a platform then, and I built up an audience. And then I had a very good career for. I did, I sold 3 million books. I did 11 books. I did, a book on Oprah show. It went to number one New York Times bestseller list. So I had this amazing 10 years of real incredible growth. And at the time, I remember my publisher calling up and saying, you're selling 47,000 books a week. And I was like,
Wow.
is it good? I just kind of, and we sold like 1.5 million of one book. So great times. And then I scaled up, I got overheads. I had, I was with a partner, I had a child. And then, there was an apathy. What I was doing in the market, lots of other people came in, were doing the same thing. And it was suddenly not just the thing that only we could do. I kind of maybe paved a way, but now there were lots of people who were doing things and reinventing what I was doing, which was always great to see too. So I then went back and I was, I'd done now 15 years working with Susanna on all these incarnations. And I kind of thought, I really want to do a business. I tried in 99 to do an online business. I'd raised $7 million in 3 months from J.H. Whitney and Atlantis Ventures, a very early B fund. And I'd gone to market with a concept which was really a portal for women to get personalization, but there was no path to profit. There was no way that I could commercialize that. It always went back to the high street, to the shopping mall. And so it was never going to work. But I amassed, information on 200,000 women. So unbelievable kind of data capture. And I'd always liked the sense of what personalization was. And when I did all the makeover shows, all these women, what they noticed first was the makeup. And I loved makeup. I've never been a professional makeup artist, but I loved that feeling it gave a woman. And I also felt when I looked around and I had, I hate with a passion market research. I think it's a load of crap. Okay. I think it's a waste of money. I think if you're starting something and you're an entrepreneur and you come up with an idea, it's from experience, it's from a sense of, if you're a serial entrepreneur, it's not, it's looking at opportunity in the market. But if you're that first time entrepreneur, it's about that feeling of, I feel this is a gap because I really feel it. I have friends who resonate with it. There's a broader circle who believe in it too. There's something here, And so with me, I had 3,000 women's voices in my head because I'd by this stage made over that many women. And I was like, they get confused at the beauty counter. They get made up by somebody who's 20 and they're 40. They get made up by somebody who's 40 and they're 20. They go outside and they look orange or brown or golden when they should look peaches and cream or deep caramel or light brown. It's like all these things which were happening when two people physically were together. So how could you take makeup, put it online, get that audience who always go in store, bring them online and make them feel they had a better experience online than in store? Okay, so that was my challenge because I had the prettification. So it's like when you're building a brand, you've got to think, what are the pillars of that brand that make you unique? It might be one individual thing, or it might be, in my case, it's a triangle. I love a triangle. I love a circle and a triangle, but a triangle for me was, I want to offer personalization. I want amazing premium products, and I want it to feel portable in a modern life we live today. So we have our stack, which, clicks together. Each thing is multi-purpose. It's premium, incredible product. So made in Italy, kind of a bit more than Bobbi Brown, a little bit less than Charlotte Tilbury. And it makes you feel very, very confident. Anyone can do it. And most importantly, and I made over 2,000 women to do this, I want you to go online and say, this is me, Mary from Chicago. I have blonde hair, I have green eyes, and I have a caramel skin. And we say, okay, Mary, this is a makeup you suit, because that doesn't happen. And what's interesting when you look at personalization is that personalization has been, there's personalization, there's gamification, there's VA, all this stuff is very clinical. So personalization can become a really clinical journey, and it's how you combine the beauty of what personalization delivers to a customer with an emotive journey, because that is secret sauce to get that together. So for me, it was like, okay, how do I bring those two together? And what came about at the time, I had a very small social media following. And I remember I went to see some guys at Facebook because I'd done TV, and this is like 2016.
Yeah.
And they said, just let, just Trinny, put your phone on the wall and just start chatting and see who's out there. So I put my phone on the wall, and I was in my bathroom, and I stuck it. I had this little piece of glue, and I just started saying hi and chatting. And these people said, are you Trinny who used to be Trinny and Susanna? There was all that. So
Wow.
like quite funny. And then like every day I'd just chat. And I got this, really interesting, very committed community on Facebook. I have 1 million followers on Facebook, and my engagement on each post is like, 200,000 to 500,000 with a few thousand comments. So there's a real level of engagement there. And what was interesting is when I did my original business plan and I was going out, and that's another podcast, just going out to funds and how you, as a
Yes.
woman, okay, can communicate to what might be predominantly men,
Yeah.
why something's important. So I would go to very fintech kind of investors, like Balderton in the UK, which is quite a big VE firm. And, there was a Frenchman there, and he said, Trinny, I hope you can get me out. I like it, but I think if you did a third-party portal for women that would tell them all other brand, and then you could sell this product in the store, that's a good idea. And I was like, you just separate out my uniqueness. So obviously he didn't invest. So I went around the houses, and there's time when you feel, I felt I got the idea. I'd had 10, 15 prototypes with a little, I raised a small 150,000, like $210,000. On here, we have an SEIS fund, which is where you get 50% tax back if it fails, so you can
Oh,
go to a friends and family. It's a very good entrepreneurial startup kind of concept. And it gave me the ability to then, do all the prototypes. The first one, I cried, it was so shit. And sorry for my French. And then the 10th or 11th one was perfect. Look at the formulas, look at how I wanted to have them made. I'm very fanatical about mixing textures and doing the formulas myself, in my room and sending them to a manufacturer. So that all took time. And then by the time I launched, the social media profile had grown a bit. I'd said to my investors, the people, who finally said yes, was a mixture of friends and family, and one really good initial VC called Unilever Ventures, which is part of a big
yeah.
gamble. And
I
sorry,
know
there's
Unilever. No, I know Unilever.
and they have a separate kind of investor arm. But I said I will do like a 2%. So I ran the revenue model on a 2% conversion of my social media. Okay. And at the time I had like 200,000 followers, maybe, or 150. I think I had 150,000 followers. And so I wrote that plan with my CEO, Mark, who was an accountant. And we really looked and we thought, what else can we base it on, really? We can't. We've got nothing. We can put a finger in the air. It's like, but I want to do a plan which doesn't feel like, you have an idea closest to you of the 1-year plan. The 2-year plan, you're slightly finger in the wind. The 3-year plan, no one has a goddamn clue. Like really, you do not know. So weirdly, doing it on this and projecting how many more followers we would get per year was quite interesting because, I said in year 1 we would do like maybe up to $1 million. We did £500,000. I said in year 2 we might do, I think I said we might do 1 million, and no, I said we'd do 2 million, and we did 2.5. And then in year 3 we said we'd do 10, and we did 11. Well, actually year 2.5, and so now we're in year 3 actually. Year 3, and this year I'll do $40 million.
Wow.
So,
So the first year the
so
projection was off by about half, but after that it's been off in
but it's
positive.
kind of like, it's been quite on the money. And I think how you calculate, it's very difficult when you do a business plan to calculate and convince investors why you think you'll get to that figure. And I think so many investors are so kind of savvy now, and they're like, oh, yet another kind of pie in the sky plan. And You know, Mark and I took great satisfaction, my COO, going back to Unilever when we were back and we were presenting to their investment board saying, hey, look, we said it'd be X and it's like 500,000 off. And the following year we said it'd be X and it was 1 million off, you know, and they loved it too. So, you know, I think that growing a business, if I look now, even though I'd written that down, and even though I think where I'm at now is, and it was very well described to me by a shaman. Let's just throw a shaman in there, okay?
Why
You
not?
want, I can throw in a shaman. And like a shaman of 20 years, a woman I've known since I was a child who became a shaman. But she said this thing to me the other day, which really resonated, because she said, Trinny, you would walk along and your baseline was down here. So I'm putting my walking along at my face and my baseline is at my stomach. So you always felt how far you had to fall. And building a business, when you feel that, is an incredibly, permanent butterfly, fear-driven place. And she said, your baseline and what you need to wake up to now, because I still don't own my own home. Okay. And there's an element to me of like, if I own my own home, it says I've done something, and I have owned my own home, but I had to kind of sell it to start this business. All right. And so she said, what you have to really own is the business is doing really well. It's not going to die overnight. You will own your own home. You maybe don't want to divest yourself of your percentages now because it will dilute you. And maybe you don't want to dilute yet, you know. But what you have to remember is your baseline is just here. It's like 2 inches below you. It's not a foot. So you haven't got far to fall. So really feel that momentum, because that momentum will now drive you. So, you know, a lot of us think our baseline is further down, or we make it further down than it is. So when you're building a company, building a brand, building a business, you need to feel you're building it on cement, not quicksand. You know, so if you don't feel that, that's just such a hair-raisy ride, but it's also a really uncomfortable, fear-driven ride. And I think maybe a lot of my life, if I look retrospectively, was fear-driven, you know. And I worked for 15 years where every August I would have to work out, will I get the book recommissioned? Will the TV show be recommissioned? It wasn't in my power. The one wonderful thing and tough thing about being an entrepreneur is it is all within your power and your decision, and you have to live and die by that. But nobody else is going to make that decision for you, unless you get to a level of investment where you get to become a minority shareholder. But then you can always have an element of control of your business if you feel you're the right person to run it. But that's something I won't be looking at for 3 or 4 years.
If there's anything profound I'm gathering from what you're doing is, while you have such an expertise in makeup and in the fashion world, it's no mistake why you're successful. The level of business acumen you have is clear. You've under no uncertain terms ensured to understand exactly what it requires, what it takes to get people to see why that makes sense financially and why they should back what you're doing. And that alone puts you in such a different position from so many people in today's, especially in today's modern world, where all these little startups, and
Yeah.
it's no reflection of them. What I'm saying is, a lot of people are getting it together and they're focusing on the craft or what it is, but you've specifically seem to have made an effort to understand the business aspect of it. And I know you have a background in so many ventures that you
Yeah,
started,
but not things that, but the two other things to that, Phil, I would say are this, that only now am I beginning to really just look at we've done 3 or 4 times revenue per year and look at how fantastic that is. Because for me, what has been really, really important is what the sort of mantra is of your business, because it will really direct your true intent. So, I watched a show called The Apprentice. Trump used to do it in America, and it was always like, it was with celebrities in America, but in the UK, it's with these young guys, and they go, I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's kind of like, okay. But my intention was obviously to really build a fantastic company. But my intention from the beginning has been to build something that is more than a beauty brand. That's a way of life for women that will make them feel better. And that to me is always like, if you look at a North Star matrix, so my CMO Her North Star matrix, okay. So Uber is the second ride. That's her North Star matrix, all right. But her North Star matrix is new customer acquisition, right? Which is great. That's fine. She's a CMO. My North Star matrix is that Trinny London should always be more than just a beauty brand to every woman, because that in itself acquires new customers because they tell people. And what we have now, we have all these followers, which I love, and they're committed followers. But 2 years ago on Facebook, this woman in Northwest England started a fan page. She called it a Trinny Tribe. And soon there were like 7. And then we noticed it when we launched. And we said, what are you doing? And they just posted everything I did. And it was about the makeup if they bought it. If they hadn't, it was about a skincare routine I talked about or whatever. Just like a sort of fan kind of page. But they all felt, because I love women, they were very loving and kind to each other. And it was this incredibly loving community. And then we said, look, let's help you guys a bit. You all taken a bit of our site and made it your logo. Let's give you a logo. Let's call it, the Trinny Tribe, give you a yellow logo. So now we have 70,000 women around the world in 33 tribes in 13 countries. On the East Coast, there's 1,000. In California, our West Coast one, we have 1,500 members. In Arizona, we've got 500 members or whatever, and next September, I'm going to come to America and really push Trinny London in America. But whenever I do a call to action on my channel on Instagram, not Trinny London channel, in stories, and I would say, I do say, if you want to join a community of women who do not judge you biasly as your sister or your mother or your daughter or your best girlfriend might, and who will respect you for the woman that you want to be right now, then join these groups, because that's what these women will do. And when I go around the world, and, I've done this in New York, I've done this in Sydney, I've done this in Scotland, and we kind of give a party for the Trinny Tribers. Like 200 or 300 women come in a room with this unbelievable energy. And it's not a sort of Rochelle Holmes, Mrs. Rachel Holmes or whatever her name. It's not that rah, Oprah, that emulation she trying to have of Oprah. It's not that, but it's just this mutual celebration of what they are, and the like somebody will do a funny makeup, and if you were kind of makeup cricket, you go, and everyone go, God, that's so amazing, or you must feel so good today that you're doing that. There's this it's very American that way. In England, we're quite used to kind of not always supporting each other, but that is what my North Star Matrix is all about. Because if you create something like we talk about Steve Jobs' golden apple, all right, and the computer is the byproduct of what he wants to do. He wants to make life easier for people. That's what he wants to do. And he produces things that then do that. But that's, in a way, his North Star Matrix, kind of, isn't it? I don't know. So for me, it's always been driven by that. I'm not driven by a balance sheet, Phil. I'm driven by that. I've got to a stage now that I've gone from startup to early growth. So I need to be aware more of the financial aspects of what we're doing with the business. We have, we're profitable, and by March, I'll have a certain amount of money in the bank. I need to redeploy that really well. So I want to redeploy that into a lot of personalization, because I want to lead on personalization in the beauty space. But
just part of your triangle.
Which is a part of my triangle. Yeah. And I have 5 more verticals that I will deliver over the next few years.
And it is funny. I remember you saying that part of what's inspired this was that women go into a store and it doesn't come out though, like they have somebody do that, they're 40 and they have someone who's 20 doing it, or someone who's 20 and they have someone 40 doing it on their face, and it's hard to get makeup right if you didn't learn specifically. And I happen to know that to be very true. So the fact that you made a line that, look, you put this on, you don't even have to know how to do makeup. It'll work for you. You just choose what you like in your stack.
Mm.
That is so in line with your mission, which you clearly know is what's responsible for the growth of the community that's supporting this product that you're building, and really a lifestyle.
Yeah, it is a way of life. It's an attitude to life, that's the thing. And for many years, my attitude to life was flawed by my lack of self-worth, and it's like, how can you make somebody feel their baseline is just under their feet? because we'd all feel so much better waking up like that.
What a slogan. Your baseline is just under your feet.
Yeah.
Oh, this is powerful. No, I can see, and you know, I I'm only now learning about you, but having to be able to go a bit into your history and read off some of the things you've accomplished, but then also see what level of purpose is driving you now, and knowing where you've come from, the place you were, with all the things that you were doing. It really gives me, nobody can know anyone from just one conversation, but it gives me a clear picture of where you could potentially, you could do anything you want in the truest sense. And you're in charge of 100 people's lives, but with a sense of purpose and mission like the one you have and the accomplishments you've done. I'm excited to know, you said you want to branch out into America. Is that what's next?
Mhm. I'm coming to America in September. I mean, and we 10% of my like of our customers, 59% is in the UK, about 10% is in the US, about 17% is in Australia, and the rest is rest of the world. So I want to get to 25% US.
Yeah.
US. So for me, that's this September, coming up. So we've got 7 or 8 months. We've just hired a PR company who think differently. And I'm just gonna, we'll gently, the way we do, like when we do Facebook ads and stuff, we really everything. I think there is an art to Facebook advertising, and I think
Absolutely.
it's all about rawness. It's not about polished ads. It's about in your feed. Is that somebody I'm following, or is that an ad, and not really knowing the difference because you become engaged by the story?
Mm.
So we've done that a lot in how we market the brand, and probably, about 52% is organic and 48% is paid. Um, and that for me is a really important ratio. It's like, if we were going to detail for a second, Phil, but just I remember a few years ago, everyone was, when we had Casper and we had all these brands that were kind of doing that sort of blitzkrieg growth, that book, all of those books that we've all read. And I always felt there was something weird about this way of growth because it's a quicksand growth, and we've seen in a few of these companies, yes, it is, because you get to a huge amount of customer base, you don't know where else to go, you're kind of a one-trick pony, and these companies are not going to survive because they don't have a returning long-term cohort.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some companies where you maybe you don't mind a high churn. I'm not that company. I don't want a high churn. Our churn is under 50%, and our long-term customer is a really fantastic cohort. And building a business for me, I need that. I need to know that we might build slow layers in this mille-feuille, but that's the way I know that I have to build a business.
Trini, for someone who's listening who's like, man, this is inspiring, but where do I start? If you yourself had lost everything, and knock on wood, that's not happening. You're doing amazing things. If you yourself can put yourself into that state of mind where I lost everything and I have to start over from scratch,
Mhm.
would you say focus on building a community first, a product or service? What would you tell a would be entrepreneur, and in particular, a woman would be entrepreneur?
I think that communities are built with authenticity, and authenticity is the most inauthentic word. That's the problem with that word, because it's been so overused. But the more authentic somebody is, if we could find another word, it'd be great, Phil. The more, even if you only have 20 people, you share about the person because you tell a friend, you say, my God, that's really like, that cuts through the bullshit. So you need both. But if you spend too much time on what the product should be and not enough time thinking about how you're going to market that product or service, you will crash, because you'll always be wanting to perfect it. And at some stage, you've got to learn how to sell it. And I think a lot of people fail because they spend too long perfecting something, which is then never, ever, ever going to have a chance to be sold.
So it's a delicate balance between knowing what you're making
I think
and
you've got to think, when am I going to start to test out that market? If I was really starting from nothing, and I would have to kind of downsize and start over, I would go back to that sort of Gary Vaynerchuk. What have I got in my house that I can sell? How can I cut my costs? Let me go and buy fruit from the market, of this fruit that will only last for the day, so they sell it cheaper. And let me go to the train station and let me sell it for, 4 times what it cost me and put it in a nice plastic. That's
you're a
what you've
true
got
entrepreneur.
to do. And then, you start that day with $50 and you end the day with $200 and you do that, for a month, and suddenly you've got $2,000 or $3,000 ahead of what it costs you to live on. And you think, okay, how am I going to best spend that money that I can then prove my concept? What's the most important thing I need to put that money in to prove my concept? And step by step, baby steps.
That's amazing. I know most people would never even get past the idea of, okay, I'm going to go buy this and sell it for more. Most people don't have the self-worth necessary to believe they can actually demand a higher price for what it is they themselves purchased at a lower cost.
Yeah, I know. That's just getting somebody's head around that concept.
Yeah.
It's just, the thing is, it's knowing the market at where somebody will spend more for the same thing. So if you grow up in a community where you're all used to spending the same price on something, you need to imagine where is a community where they would spend more. And I need to go to that community. I need to not threaten, but excite and make that community find it fun. So, if I'm going to an affluent area and I don't come from an affluent area, I need to kind of dress nicely, have a shower, present my things nicely, and be cheerful and make people not feel, oh my God, who's that guy, or girl, but like, oh, look at that ray of sunshine coming into my life. Yeah, I'll buy that fruit. I don't feel scared of where has it come from,
Right.
So it's how you present, even your precursor to your brand you're going to present, the thing that will help you get to presenting your brand to an investor, that bowl of fruit, how are you going to present it? That's, I think,
No, I think that was the diamond we were looking for anyone who's starting out I know at the core of it all, that fear of not feeling enough and thinking, how am I supposed to sell this for twice as much, let alone 4 times as much? That's what I think they needed to hear from someone who's done it over
mm,
and over and over and
mm,
blown it up, and
mm,
then found that they could speak to a community and continue to foster that community and nurture it into an entire lifestyle that is empowering
yeah.
women every day, as and growing according to
I,
what to
I
the
did that
data.
with I did that with my clothing because I had built up a collection of clothing
For
from,
what not to wear.
yeah. And I had bought all my things because I didn't like the principle of borrowing because I thought it compromised your style. So a lot of my salary went into clothes, way too many. And there was a stage when I'd, done the raise of this SEIS and I had, run out of that money that I'd spent. And I had this kind of, like, I hadn't yet got money from a big and proper investor. And so I just thought, what can I sell? I did never bought a nice painting. I don't have, a home that I can sell and get money from. I'm just going to sell it to pay off the debt of the mortgage. So I just looked around. I thought, okay, let me just get all my best clothes and sell them. And then who am I going to sell it to? Friends that you can't let anyone in your house. And I thought, hell, I'll go on to Craigslist.
Yeah.
So I went to Emily's list, which is like the equivalent of Craigslist. And I just said, great designer pieces at good prices. And I raised like $60,000 over 3 sales. And that
Wow.
kept me going for another year.
Wow.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just a recurring pattern. You flip that Gary, like you said, that Gary Vaynerchuk style, that you just flip the
And I think,
lemonade stand.
yeah, and I think Gary Vaynerchuk is fantastic, but it's difficult for a woman
Yes.
really to get him because he's in a very, he's about baseball, he's about,
Well, that's why Trinny, you're that person for people.
well, no, I'm not that person. He's just gorgeously fantastic, actually. And also he has a heart and he has kindness in him, which I like that. And that comes out in his feed. And I watch his feed grow from like 300,000 to a few million it is now. So if none of you follow him, I'm sure you've talked about him, Phil, but
You
it is
know,
just,
I like to ask guests that when I'm closing and wrapping things up, and I know that we're closing in on some time, but I would actually be interested. You've done so much. Is there anybody you've yet to meet by name or trade that you would love to meet? Let's say at this point and this juncture of your life right now.
I think that it goes back to the thing at the beginning of the importance as an entrepreneur to stay in your lane.
Mm.
Okay, and not look over the garden hedge. So would I have liked along my journey to meet Emily Weiss from Glossier? Would she have taught me anything? Would I have liked to meet Charlotte Tilbury and chat to her about business? I know her anyway, but would I want to do that? Have I looked at those businesses around me and seen what they're doing and what they're offering? A little bit, because I see what they're not picking up as the low-hanging fruit as well, because I know that that's why women come to me and not to those two brands. We all fulfill a slightly different purpose. But I get so much more from meeting women who are not known than I get from meeting women or men who are known. And I learn so much more from that. So when I do a live on a Wednesday morning on Facebook on my own channel, and I've got, on the live, 5,000 women around the world from, like, sometimes I have 60 countries. I do at 9 a.m. So I have a woman who can't go to sleep in Chicago, and a woman who's still awake in LA, and a woman who's going to bed in Sydney, and a woman in Singapore, and some people in Germany, and wherever. And I say it how it is. So I get back incredible stories and moments of things that women say. And that's the most exciting thing for me, not meeting somebody who's well known.
Always a chance. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with you having had been that person who was looking for that home, that you're able to champion that very cause yourself. I can see why your heart resonates so much with the woman who isn't known as opposed to someone who might be.